The biggest issue for India, of course, as we all know, was the issue of the border. And Depsang and Demchok, the fact that there was some amount of disengagement there, has actually helped matters. There is still a long way to go because there is still peace and tranquility which has to be maintained along the border. And plus the fact that 50,000 odd troops which are on the border facing each other, they have to be pulled back to positions which do not threaten each other. I do not think that the Chinese side has shown readiness to agree on those principles as yet. We had a set of principles which we were talking about till 2006.
The political parameters.
That's right. So if we have to go back and restart from that point, well, it's something that can be taken as a reference point, and we can go back to that situation.
Hello, you are watching India Today Global. I am Pranay Upadhyay. India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, is in China. This is his first China visit after Galwan clashes of June 2020. And this meeting is happening at a time when China is hosting Shanghai Cooperation Organization's leadership, chairmanship, and Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO's foreign ministers meeting is taking place in China. But this meeting is also important as far as India-China bilateral relation is concerned. We will try and understand the importance of this visit, and I am being joined by Ambassador Anil Wadhwa, who served not only as India's ambassador in Thailand, in Italy, but also as Secretary East in the Ministry of External Affairs. So welcome to India Today Global.
Thank you.
Sir, my first question is that this meeting is happening for the first time post Galwan clashes. How do you assess and how do you see the importance of this meeting vis-a-vis the India-China bilateral relation, and especially after the thaw initiated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping's meeting in Kazan in 2024?
So I think one should see this visit by the External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar, as one more attempt on part of both sides to bring about some stability in the relationship, which had got strained after Galwan and following the Kazan meeting between the Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping. We had concerted efforts made to get back to some sort of normalization as quickly as possible. The biggest issue for India, of course, as we all know, was the issue of the border. And Depsang and Demchok, the fact that there was some amount of disengagement there, has actually helped matters. Having said that, I think there is still a long way to go because there is still peace and tranquility which has to be maintained along the border. And plus the fact that 50,000 odd troops which are on the border facing each other, they have to be pulled back to positions which do not threaten each other. And also along with that, there are a number of issues which are pending. For example, if you want to get back to some sort of normalization, you have to make sure that the flights between the two countries are resumed. You also have the people-to-people contacts which will start. And the trade ties between the two countries have come under a lot of strain lately, as we've seen, because of the issue related to rare earths, for example, the restrictions that have been put on by China, which have affected the Indian automobile industry and tech industry. Along with that, the issue about technicians for Foxconn factories. So we've had a number of issues on the trade and investment front, which also need a lot of attention.
But sir, as you mentioned, that the border remains a paramount issue between India and China, and as Prime Minister Narendra Modi also said in his previous meetings with President Xi Jinping, that differences should not become disputes. And today, when External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar had a meeting with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi, he also mentioned, he not only reiterated the same thing, but he also said that the competition should not become conflict between the two countries. But the paramount the issue remains the mutual respect, mutual interest, and mutual sensitivity. And Dr. Jaishankar also mentioned this thing. How do you see that in this, the current state of affair in the global arena? How India and China can cooperate, and what are the issues which still remain pending and which need to be resolved if India and China want to cooperate?
So I think it's first of all, it's very important that given the international situation, India and China can work together so that they can gain mutually, and at the same time they can be two countries who can bring about some amount of stability in the world order today. Now, as far as the bilateral relationship is concerned, I think what is most important is to create trust between the two sides, which has been lacking since the Galwan incident in 2020. Now, it is this process that the two sides are actually engaged in about how to go back to the normalization and how to restore what was happening before Galwan. Of course, the border issue is the most important, as you also mentioned, and India has been reiterating this all along. It's good to see that Wang Yi would be visiting India later this month for the next round of special representative talks with his counterpart, Mr. Ajit Doval. These talks will be focusing on the border. One round has already been held. Plus, we've had a meeting between the defense ministers. Mr. Rajnath Singh had a meeting with his counterpart as part of the SCO, defense ministers meeting. And now we have the foreign ministers who are meeting each other.
So, not only the Galwan issue, but even during Op Sindoor, we have seen that how Chinese have helped Pakistan. How are we going to build trust when such kind of things are there in these before us?
Yes, so I think you hit the nail on the head because if you see the Chinese help, which has been extended to Pakistan militarily and also as far as space is concerned. Plus the equipment, military equipment that has been supplied to Pakistan. That's one of the issues which will figure definitely in the discussions because trust cannot be built if you have this kind of a relationship between China and Pakistan. Obviously, if any more lethal equipment is supplied, then India will have to counter that and take its own defensive measures going forward. And that is only going to increase the mistrust between the two countries. So I think both sides will have to discuss how to manage this situation because the relationship between Pakistan and China has now become one of ironclad brothers, and we've seen that cooperation grow technologically and militarily by leaps and bounds.
Ambassador Wadhwa, you have also dealt this issue, and this is not happening for the first time. The China-Pakistan partnership is an old partnership. As you have mentioned it, it's an ironclad brotherhood or partnership, they call it. But we have seen that India has expressed this concern many times with the Chinese leadership. Even at the highest level, we have expressed our concern and shared our concern and asked China to have mutual sensitivity, respect for the mutual concerns. But we see that the Chinese on one side continue talking about having good relation with India. On the other side, they keep continuing their support, their military hardware supply, and also the strategic and tactical support to Pakistan. And in fact, they did not play any constructive role in stopping Pakistan to harbor and sponsor terrorism against India. So how we are going to deal with this situation, and what kind of constructive measure we can push vis-a-vis the relationship with China?
So I think it has to be dealt with on a three-pronged basis. One is to raise these issues fairly and squarely with the Chinese side in all the bilateral engagements at the highest level that we have. And we've had two of them already. The third one is going to happen now. Plus, we will have a fourth one when we will have Mr. Wangi visiting
Mhm.
India later this month. So at all these meetings, these concerns have to be raised quite upfront. Secondly, we have to impress upon the Chinese that any action which takes away from the sovereignty and the security of India will result in equal and matching steps by India to defend its own sovereignty, which will only escalate the situation. So, if China is really interested
Mm.
in going back to status quo and normalization of relationships, then this has to be kept in mind. And thirdly, of course, India has to independently make sure that does not let its guard down, that its defensive posture, which it has maintained for a very long period of time, and the state of readiness has to be kept up going forward.
So you mentioned about the SR level talks mechanism, which existed in between India and China since over like 2.5 decades now. How optimistic you are that this SR level mechanism can actually yield a breakthrough for resolution of border issue? Because we have seen recently during the defense ministers meeting between India and China, India's defense minister Rajnath Singh did suggest that there should be a four-pronged strategy about the disengagement, about de-escalation, about demarcation of boundary. And for the demarcation of the boundary, we need to we need to utilize the SR level mechanism, because we have had 23 rounds of talks, but there is no considerable progress in it. What are the reasons behind it, and how optimistic you are that this SR level mechanism can actually yield the desired result for the resolution of 3,488 kilometers of line of actual control?
So it's very important to keep up the dialogue between India
Hmm.
and China. That's the first priority that both sides should have. Now, whether it results in an immediate de-escalation or a disengagement or marking of the boundaries, that will have to be left to the future. But I
Hmm.
think that effort must go on because we cannot abandon this effort. This is the only way forward between the two countries. And now, as far as de-escalation and disengagement is concerned, that's an easier task to do
Hmm.
because it means that we have to go back to where we were pre-Galwan. That's
Hmm.
number one. Secondly, if we have to start the process of demarcation of the border, we had this process on till 2006. It was going quite successfully.
Hmm.
But at that point in time, from the Chinese side, there was an abandonment of future efforts in this regard. So we had a pause. Instead, we had confidence building measures and different MOUs which were signed to keep the peace and tranquility on the border leading up to 2013. And thereafter, we've not had any such attempts which have been made in concrete terms. So I think time has come now to revive
Hmm.
that kind of a process. And as the defense minister said, we need to
Hmm.
go back to the drawing board and see if we can make efforts towards, demarcation by marking the border.
So, if you can help our viewers understand where this boundary demarcation or this SR level mechanism is stuck, at what point we are right now.
Well, it's a question of
Hmm.
agreeing
Hmm.
to start the process of marking of the boundaries. Now, for that to happen, you have to agree on certain principles. And
Hmm.
if you agree on certain principles, then those have to be stuck to for future negotiations. I do not think that the Chinese side has shown readiness to agree on those principles as yet. We had a set of principles which we were talking about till 2006.
The
Now,
political
if we have to
parameters.
go, that's right. So
Hmm.
if we have to go back and restart from that point, well, it's
Hmm.
something that can be taken as a reference point,
Hmm.
and we can go back to that situation. At the current moment, though, I think we will take some time to reach that point. That is
Hmm.
my personal opinion,
Hmm.
because we have to rebuild the trust that has been lost since Galwan.
Hmm.
And there are a number of steps which need to be taken before that. There are a number of pinpricks which have happened, for example, in the trade and investment front, for example, in the new developments with regard to Tibet and the succession of Dalai Lama. All these
Yes.
are issues that have come up only lately.
Hmm.
So both sides have to actually seriously discuss where they are on this, and can an understanding be reached between them on these issues first.
Since you mentioned about the Tibet and Dalai Lama issue, sir, the visit of External Affairs Minister is happening at a time when there has been recent statement from both sides, and especially the Dalai Lama statement and the kind of reaction we have seen from China. Can India take up this issue, can discuss with China, because we have our position as far as Dalai Lama is concerned, and as far as this issue is concerned. But China is having a different kind of a view, and they are quite determined to have their say in the appointment or anointment or selection, or in fact in future Dalai Lama's his position. So how are we going to deal with the situation, and can it be a factor to derail these peace initiatives at any future point?
So I think if both sides are prudent enough, they will discuss this issue while at the same time working on other issues, because the Dalai Lama issue is not in the control of, as far as India is concerned. India has already made a stand clear that we stand by whatever the decision of the Dalai Lama is in respect to the methodology of succession or reincarnation or whatever it might be. As far as the Chinese are concerned, if they want to follow another method, well, it's their viewpoint. But the fact is that nothing can be forced upon the Tibetan community unless it has the sanction of the Dalai Lama. And that's where
After
we
all, it's
are.
an issue of faith.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, after all, it's an issue of faith.
Yes, it is an issue of faith, of course. And therefore, one has to leave it to the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan community.
You're right, sir. As far as the issue of Dalai Lama is concerned, it's better should be decided by the Tibetan people, whom they want to accept, and how they want to have practice their faith. Coming to the last question of mine in this interview, sir, since Galwan, the informal meeting mechanism between Prime Minister and Chinese President Xi Jinping is stalled. We have seen in Wuhan, thereafter in Mahabalipuram, but then Galwan happened, then COVID happened, and thereafter we did not see any informal meeting. Since Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to visit for the SCO summit in Tianjin, can we see restoration of a informal meeting mechanism between the two leaders?
So, that has to be prepared for in advance. As you know, these kind of meetings, which is now expected, of course, if the Prime Minister visits, then that has to be prepared for. And both sides must determine what are the deliverables which can come out of that meeting. And that's why these bilaterals, which are taking place right now, the fact that the external affairs ministers are meeting now in Beijing, and later on, Mr. Wangi would be in India to meet with Mr. Doval, can create that atmosphere. And both sides have already discussed these issues at the level of foreign secretaries, for instance. So there is an agenda on the table. The only question is the timetable as to how to implement it, when to implement it, and how to solve and skirt the pinpricks that have developed. For example, the unilateral Chinese actions on trade, and also the issue of Dalai Lama, which we discussed just now, because that has only cropped up recently. Of course, it was supposed to have come in.
So before having any restoration of a leader level meeting or informal summit, what are the expectations from the Indian side? Like, if you can list 4-5 expectations that these should be there before we can proceed to have a summit level meeting.
Well, the biggest issue for India, as we all know, is the issue of normalization and peace and tranquility on the border. And India's stand has always been that both sides should go back to the situation which there was pre-Galwan. Now, if that is not possible, then of course we must make all efforts to work towards that goal as quickly as we can. That's number one. And secondly, as far as trade and investment issues are concerned, the restrictions that have been placed by the Chinese side, for example, on export of rare earths, for instance, or for that matter, withdrawal of personnel and technology denials, plus the non-tariff barriers, though that's a major issue as far as India is concerned. The Chinese side would equally like to have restrictions on movement of Chinese businessmen into India lifted, and the visa issue normalized. And of course, once that happens, and then the airlines, can resume their operations once again between the two countries.
Since we are talking on the Shravan Mass and the first Monday in Kalash Mansarovar Yatra is also on, would you like to reflect on this issue as well? The Chinese have agreed to restore the Kalash Mansarovar Yatra. Can we see as a confidence building measure to restore people to people contact and eventually have bigger facilities for the businessmen and the workers?
Yes, so the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra is a big confidence building measure for sure. And I think when we are looking at increasing people to people contacts, um, similar steps can be taken. As far as the Chinese are concerned, for them, the first step would be to go back to the status quo that we had earlier as far as travel between the two countries is concerned, and the visa issue.
Yes.
And then, of course, we had, from their side, the biggest grouse has been that there are restrictions placed on Chinese investments into India, which has resulted because of the special provisions that have been made for investments from our neighboring countries, which the government has promulgated in the past at the time of COVID.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Wadhwa, for sharing your perspective, your thoughts, and helping our viewers to understand the importance of External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar's visit to China and the future course of India-China relation. Thank you very much.